We are dealing with the chapter Structure of an Atom. So welcome back to today's chemistry class. In the last class we have been studying about what are orbitals. Orbitals are the region in the space, okay, that is when you talk about an atom, the space wherein you can find the electron, where there is maximum probability of finding an electron, and that space is called the orbitals. So you have already studied about the different quantum numbers from where you can actually predict where can electron be inside an atom. So which are the four quantum numbers? Principal quantum number, azimuthal quantum number, which is also the angular momentum quantum number. Then we have the spin quantum number as well as the magnetic quantum number. So from the magnetic quantum number, which is L, we get to know the different orbitals which are present inside an atom, wherein the orbital says us what is the maximum probability of finding the electron in that particular space. So that is what we were talking about. So we started from the Thomson's model where it was the pudding model, then we came across Rutherford's model where it was the discovery of nucleus. Then there was Bohr's atomic model where he says that electrons travel in fixed orbits, but then it was proved wrong, and then we have the quantum mechanical model which we are talking about. So quantum mechanical model mainly deals with the theoretical concepts wherein the equations are being solved in order to deduce the values of wave functions, or in a better precise way we say it is psi square, which is nothing but the probability density of finding an electron in a space around the atom. And that particular topic we have reached right now, that is a quantum mechanical model. So how these electrons are situated in the orbitals, in different orbitals, starting from the shells, the subshells, all these we are studying right now. So we have actually come across the four quantum numbers, so we can deduce where the electrons are present in an atom, okay, especially in the orbitals. So let us continue studying about these electrons, how these electrons are situated in different orbitals, and today especially we will be dealing with the shapes of these atomic orbitals, okay. Now you know that our main basis is from the Schrodinger wave equation, right? The solutions whichever we get, so that indicates the values or the probability of the electron being present in that particular space inside an atom. So that is what we are talking about. So talking about the shapes of atomic orbitals, in the starting of this identification of the shapes of these atomic orbitals, what would be the shape where the electron is being present? Okay, what is that dense area where we can find the electron? So depending on this, or depending on the Schrodinger wave equation, which is nothing but h psi is equal to E psi. So from there, we actually get to know the probability density, which is nothing but the psi square. So psi square value, when it was plotted against the radius of these orbital or the subshell, okay, or the total atom. So the radius was taken and the probability density was taken, and the variation was studied for each of these orbitals, starting from 1s, 2s and so on. So radii was considered, that is from the distance, that is the distance from the nucleus to the outermost shell, and also the probability density, which is psi square. So when this was considered, when it was plotted theoretically, when these graphs were plotted, this is for 1s and this is for 2s orbital. Now you see that the 1s orbital, the graph, this 0, it actually indicates that it is nearer to the nucleus, okay, and the radii starting from 0 and then the radii increases. So what exactly happened here? The probability of finding an electron, which is nothing but the psi square, was maximum at 0 for 1s orbital. Now you can imagine that in an atom, if you are talking about 1s orbital, if you have to find an electron, 1s orbital is actually closer to the nucleus, right? So here the nucleus is being denoted as 0. So it is maximum at 0. Very slightly nearer to 0 this value is. So it is maximum at 0, but as the radii increases, as the shells keep on increasing or the radii keeps on increasing, here you see that the probability of finding an electron in that particular space decreases and it becomes 0. Did you all understand? So here there is maximum probability of finding an electron when it is close to the nucleus. We are talking about 1s orbital. Okay, so 1s is actually close to the nucleus and hence we can find the electron near the nucleus, and that's why there is maximum probability of finding an electron near the nucleus, and hence it is maximum here. And then when the radii keeps on increasing, there is no probability of finding an electron. So that is what this graph denotes. In the same way, for 2s orbital when it was done, you see that psi square, it is actually increasing. Okay, it was maximum near the nucleus, not exactly near. You see there is a difference in the space here. So it was slightly maximum, but then later there comes a point where it becomes 0. Okay, we are talking about the 2s. So there comes first 1s, then comes 2s. So 2s is the next level. So it was maximum at a point in the initial level, but as the radii kept on increasing, there was one point where the probability of finding an electron became 0. Okay, but then what happened? Then again it started increasing. So again after 0 there was a maxima in the plot. Okay, so then it kept on increasing and then it was 0. So why is this increase here? Because we know that in 2s first comes 1s, then comes 2s. So there is 0 where we can't find the electron. That space is 0 here, and then when you go to 2s, when the radii increases, the probability of finding an electron in 2s orbitals also increases. So that is what this graph denotes. So here the point, okay, the point where the probability of finding an electron becomes 0 is called the nodes. That space or the region where the probability of finding the electron is 0 are called nodes. Okay, nodes. So this is what the theoretical concept was. When they plotted graph, how did the variation of these probability density and the radii take place? So that is what we are talking about. Now we have to start visualizing. Okay, then there must be one shell which is 1s, and then there is no probability of finding electrons. That surface must be plane, and then again when you go to 2s, then again there is probability of finding an electron. That's what the graph says. But in order to visualize the shape of these orbitals, we have a diagram, or we draw a diagram where electron density is being shown. Okay, that diagrams are called boundary surface diagrams. Okay, or we say the charge density diagram, electron density diagrams, boundary surface diagrams. Now, as I told you, when these h psi is equal to E psi, so these solutions were solved, these will give you the probability values of finding an electron in an atom. So when these equations were solved for each orbital, for each value, they obtained a solution. So what did they do? They started plotting the points in the diagram or in a surface or in a boundary. Okay, and then whenever they tried solving this equation, there was one or the other value for probability density. Because if you are talking about an atom, imagine it is spherical in shape. Okay, if I get a point over here, or if I get the value over here also, there is probability of finding an electron. Maybe it has a lesser value, but we are talking about the entire atom. Imagine if electron is here, then if I get the value over here, then yes, there is probability of finding an electron even here. Even if I get the value here, yes, there is probability. But we are talking about the high electron density where there is maximum probability. So when this diagrams or when this picture was plotted, how to visualize this atom, when this was done, the maximum probability of finding an electron was in the center for 1s orbitals. You see that the electron charge cloud is more over or more concentrated near the nucleus when compared to other parts. As you can see here, even for 2s, it is slightly more in the nucleus, but also in the second level. But here there is no probability itself, and that surface where there is no probability of finding an electron are called nodes. So this is which 2s orbital contains. Okay, here this is 1s. So 1s has maximum electron density over the nucleus, and that is what this graph says. But in 2s there is maximum probability near the nucleus, but then it goes to 0 because there is no probability of finding an electron, and then in the next level there is maximum probability again. So this is how the solutions were reduced from Schrodinger wave equation, and the probability density values were plotted as dots. So where the dots were maximum was considered to be the shape of that particular orbital. So that's why we call them as boundary surface diagrams. Okay, so the diagram was plotted, visualizing the solutions and also the probability of these electrons which are present inside an atom. So when you are talking about s orbital or the shape of the s orbitals, we know that it has to be spherical in shape, right? So if it is spherical in shape, when the electron density, when the dots were plotted, we actually got them as spherical. So in a two-dimensional, we can actually talk about a ball, okay? When you see the ball, it is in circular shape, and that's how you predict s orbital, okay? Now, talking about the shapes of s orbital, well, L will be 0 and Ml is also 0. L is a angular momentum and Ml is a magnetic quantum number. So, Ml will also be 0 here, or the orientation will be 0. And hence we say they are non-directional. If you try finding the electron from any of the sides, the value will be same. For s orbitals, it is spherical. Any direction, the values are going to be same, and that's why we say they are non-directional. And then they are spherically symmetrical. If you try finding the radii from any of the sides of this spherically shaped s orbital, the values will remain the same as they are symmetrical. Okay, and then you can imagine it something like this. 1s, you have to imagine it like a ball or a circle. Okay, in a two-dimensional way, and that's how you write 1s, and then you draw it for 2s. So what is this space where there is no probability of finding an electron? This is node, okay, or nodal surface as we say. So 2s orbital contains how many nodes? One node. Okay, so first you have 1s, then there is node because there is no probability of finding an electron, and then you move on to 2s. That is how you will draw the orbitals for nodes. So how do you calculate nodes? There is a method in order to find out the nodes too, which is given by the formula n minus 1. Where n is your principal quantum number, the main energy level. Now 1s in the sense, what's n here? It is 1 itself. If it is 2s, n is equal to 2. So if you are calculating that for n is equal to 1, for here are there any nodes here? No. So 1 minus 1 is 0. So it has 0 nodes. Got it? Then n is equal to 2. 2 minus 1 will be 1. For 3 it will be 2. For 4 it will be 3. In the same way it goes on. So nodes can be calculated by the formula n minus 1. So this is how you find out the number of nodes which can be asked in the exams for 1 or 2 months. Okay, so this is to remember. Talking about the size of these orbitals, you know that 1s will be smaller when compared to 2s. Because here the energy level keeps on increasing, or the principal quantum number keeps on increasing. So as the principal quantum number keeps on increasing, what happens to the size of the orbitals? Obviously it has to increase. Okay, so this is how the change in the size of these orbitals takes place. So maximum will be 4s, 3s, 2s and 1s. So 1s will have the smallest size. So size of the orbitals increases in this way. So 4s will have the maximum size. So this is about the s orbitals which are spherical in shape, where they are also symmetrical and they are non-directional. So this is how s orbitals are being written. Next we move on to L is equal to 1. L is equal to 1 in the sense it is p orbitals, as you all know. L is 0, then it is s orbital. Now moving on to L is equal to 1, which determines the p orbitals. Now if you have to calculate the magnetic quantum number for L is equal to 1, then you have three values, which is 0, plus 1 and minus 1. As I told you, it is like a scale. So you have 0 in between, minus 1 and plus 1. So three orbitals are possible for p orbitals, correct? So in p orbitals you have three boxes, remember. One will be px, py, pz. Now why these are given by the names px, py, pz? It is not something like they are present in that particular way, px, py, pz, but in order to denote these diagrams or visualizing these orbitals, what do? We place them according to different axes here. So one would be x, one would be y, and the other one would be z. So based on that, we have three different orbitals based on the orientation of these orbitals. Okay. So as you can see the difference here itself, that s orbitals are spherical in shape, right? But when you look at this p orbitals, they are dumbbell shape, dumbbell. Okay, dumbbell shape. Or you can consider them as two lobes which are present around the nucleus. So in the center there will be nucleus, and then you have two lobes which are exactly symmetrical to each other. Okay, they will be like, one will be having positive sign and the other one will be negative. Okay, so these both are symmetrical, and in the center you have nucleus. So the origin will be nucleus, okay, that is 0, and then you have two lobes where you can find the electrons. So here, that's why I denoted this as dots, or the electron density over here. This determines that there is maximum probability of finding an electron in these two lobes, and that's why we call them as dumbbell shape. Okay. Now why do we say it as px, py, pz? In order that we denote it along the three axes. One would be x, one would be y, and the other one would be z. So x axis will be straight like this, and then here you have y axis, and then you have z axis. So x and z, it is like a plus sign, and then you have y axis. So this is how you denote p orbitals or the dumbbell shape. Okay. Now talking about the first one, which is px orbital. See, as I told you, p orbitals can be written as three boxes, where the first one would be px, then you have py, and then you have pz. Imagine you have second shell, okay, 2px, 2py, 2pz. So this is how you denote. Now this 2px has what kind of shape? Okay, so here 2px, in the sense, this passes through the x axis. This lobe exactly intersects the nucleus, and then it is mainly on the x axis. So this is how you denote. And then you have the y axis as well as the z axis. In the same way, py, 2py is given as, in the y axis you have the dumbbell shaped two lobes, and then you have x and z which are left behind. Then you have 2pz, wherein z, on the z axis you have two lobes and the other two are left out. So this is how you denote 2px, 2py and 2pz orbitals. So these are the shapes of p orbitals which are present, and they are denoted along the different axes, namely x, y and z. Here, even here, when you talk about the size of these p orbitals, when as the quantum number increases, as the principal quantum number increases, the size of these p orbitals also increases. So same way, if you have the fourth shell p orbital, then 4p will be having more size when compared to 3p and 2p. Here you see that these three orbitals, whichever are present, they will not have varying energy. They all have same energy. They all are similar in sizes. Okay, when you are talking about one particular p orbital. But what is the difference over here? Just the orientation, just the direction of the orientation is said to be different when you compare these three orbitals. So that's the only thing to be remembered. Otherwise, they are all having same energy, but the orientation of these lobes are different when you compare it with the three orbitals. So this is what p orbitals means. So in p orbitals, the number of nodes, if you have to find out. Now as I told you, here in the center you have nucleus, right? Here also in the center you have nucleus. Here also in the center you have nucleus. Now when you are talking about the nodes, okay, the formula is given by n minus 2. N minus 2 in the sense here n, if it is 2, okay, because p orbital doesn't come in the first shell. First shell it is only oneness, right? First shell it is only oneness. Then you have 2s, 2p. Then you have 3s, 3p, 3p. Okay. So it goes on. Here in the second shell you have 2s and 2p. Now if you are talking about the nodes for the p orbitals, the formula is given as n minus 2. N in the sense it is principal quantum number again. So you start from 2 itself because it starts from second principal quantum number. So 2 minus 2 will be 0. So there are 0 nodes for the 2p orbital. If it is 3 minus 2 will be 1. For n is equal to 3 minus 2 will be 1, which denotes that it has 1 node. In the same way it goes on. So 4 has 2 nodes, 5 has 3 nodes. In this way it goes on. So this is about the nodes present in, what are nodes? As I told you, the space where there is 0 probability of finding an electron. Okay, that is node. So for p orbitals it is given as n minus 2, for s orbitals it is given as n minus 1. And talking about the size, as the principal quantum number increases, the size of these orbitals also keep on increasing. So that is about the s orbitals and the p orbitals, the shapes of these orbitals. As you all know, for d orbitals, L is equal to 2, right? So what would be the magnetic quantum number values? Ml would be starting from, there are totally 5 values, starting from minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, minus 1, 0, plus 1 and plus 2. So there are 5 orbitals which are possible for d, right? So we name them according to their axis as dxy, dyz, dxz, dx square minus y square, and then you have dz square. So this is how you name these orbitals so that you can represent them along the axis, that is x, y and z. So once again dxy, then you have dyz, then you have dxz, then you have dx square minus y square, and then last you have dz square. Now the shapes, if you consider, okay, the first 3 orbitals will have similar shapes, whereas the last 2 will have slightly different shapes, but I'll tell you what is it. Okay. Now talking about the energy of these d orbitals, all the orbitals, that is all the 5 orbitals will have the same energy, but the difference is that the way they are oriented is different, or the way we represent them in different axes is going to be different. Now, as you all know, the values are given as minus 2, minus 1, 0, plus 1 and plus 2. So these are the 5 orbitals. Now these orbitals, when compared to p orbitals had a dumbbell shape, as I told you, right? But here in d orbitals, they have double dumbbell shape. That means if it is in the dumbbell shape, then you have how many lobes? Then you have 2 lobes. But in double shape, you have how many lobes? There are 4 lobes, right? Double. So if you have to represent the first orbital, for example, let us take dxy. Now if you have to represent this dxy orbital, actually, you know, this you can imagine, you have to imagine it in a 3-dimensional way. But for a simple representation, I will just use the particular axis. Now suppose if it is dxy, then I will use xy planes, and these lobes actually come in between that of x and y axis. All the 4 lobes of this double shape will come between the x and y axis if you are talking about dxy orbital. If you are talking about dyz orbitals, all the 4 lobes will come between y and z orbitals, y and z axis. So this is how we represent it. But for a simple way, okay, in order to understand it, let me explain it to you by placing it an axis, where if you are talking about dxy, then let me take it as x and y axis, and in between there is a lobe which passes through x as well as y. So this is how you draw it. Okay. So one would be from here x, and then this goes down. This is between x and y, and the other one you would be drawing as a lobe which intersects this dxy. Okay. So another has to be drawn from the other side so that it can intersect the other lobe. So this is how you simply represent this dxy orbital. If you have to take dyz, what I have to do? I have to take which axis here, which 2 axes? Y as well as z. So y as well as z when it is taken. So you draw the lobes in between y and z, and the other lobe which intersects this double orbital. Okay, the shape. The next one which we are talking about is dxz, wherein the lobes pass from or in between that of z and x, okay, axis, and the other one will be intersecting. Now, so these almost similar to each other. The shapes of these orbitals are almost similar. Talking about this dx square minus y square, which is the fourth orbital, okay, here it is exactly equal to your dxy orbital, okay. This will be similar to your first orbital itself. The shape is going to be exactly equal, but the difference is that this is just rotated at around 45 degree angle. Okay, this is slightly rotated at around 45 degree, but the shape is actually same. The way to denote would be different. So this is how you denote here x square minus y square. So one node is actually in the x axis and the other one is actually along the y-axis. So this is how you denote dx square minus y square. Slightly different from those of dxy and dyz and dxz. If you are talking about the last one, that is dz square orbital, here as you know dz square, which represents the z-axis. So here one lobe is being drawn around the z-axis, and then there is an electron cloud. Okay, there is a circular lobe which covers the x as well as y-axis. Okay, so you call them as electron cloud, which is being present in between. Okay, so you have a dumbbell which crosses along the z-axis, and you have an electron cloud which comes in between, or which comes in the xy plane. So electron cloud is being present, and then you have one dumbbell shape which is present along the z-axis, and that's why you call them as dz square. So all these have same energy, just that the orientation or the way of representing this are different for each of these. Where these three you find them as similar ones, but the last two, this one, that is dx square minus y square, it's exactly equal to the first one, but the rotational angle is different. And dz square, which has an electron cloud in between. So this is how we represent the d orbitals. And talking about the d orbitals too, we have 3d, next you have 4d, then you have 5d. So the energy will increase according to the increase in principal quantum number, whereas in a particular 3d orbital, all the orbitals will have same energy. And the size also will keep on increasing as the principal quantum number increases. So this is about the shapes of d orbitals. Now coming back to nodes, children, as I told you, node is a surface or the region where finding of electron is 0. The probability of finding an electron becomes 0. Now, in nodes, you have two types. Okay, so they may ask you to find out the number of nodes present in a given subshell. Okay, so they may give you an orbital wherein you will have to find out the number of nodes which are present. Now in these number of nodes, we already know that number of nodes can be found out by the formula n minus 1, where n is a principal quantum number. Now talking about these nodes, there are two types of nodes when you talk about this p orbital, d orbital and so on. So one is called the radial node and the other one is called the angular node. Now if I have to tell it in a simple way, radial node. Okay, let me take an example. Imagine you have px orbital. I take p orbitals, px, right? This is how it is drawn, px, and then you have the y which passes through it, and then you have z. Correct? Now if you are talking about the radial node, that is first one. Now as you know, the probability or the electron density of finding electron is more towards the sides of these lobes, right? But in the center you have a nucleus, correct? So in the center, if you are talking about this, the radius or the distance from the nucleus to the particular shell, okay? So here there is a region which is covered up where there is no chance of finding an electron. So here there is no probability of finding an electron. That is from the center to that space where the electron density starts from. So the electron density of finding an electron in d orbital comes towards the end of these loops. But as you can see here, it covers up a space where there is no probability of finding an electron from the nucleus. Just like the radius, how do you find out? Now if you are talking about the spherical shape, now here you have nucleus, right? So there is, the nodes are the regions where there is no probability of finding an electron. Imagine indicate the region where there is no probability of finding an electron when you are talking about the radiated. So that is radial node. Okay. And the other one is angular node. Now, in talking about the angular nodes for s orbital, we cannot find it. But for p orbitals, if I am talking about the angular node is about the planes. Okay, the angles which cut through both of these lobes. Now, suppose if you are talking about px orbital, here there is a plane. I can draw something like this. You have to imagine something like an axe which is cutting through this two lobes. Okay, so in the center you have no nucleus, and there is a plane which comes and it can cut both of these lobes. So that is how you will remember the plane as. So this plane representation of there is no chance of finding an electron is called the angular node, especially the planes. Okay, so this is what is about radial as well as angular nodes. So you can consider the planes too when you have x, y and z axis. But in spherical there is no such axis. Even if you are talking about d orbitals, there can be two planes like that. Okay. If you are talking about especially 3d orbitals, then there can be two planes. If you are talking about p orbitals, then there can be one plane which can cut through the lobes, and there is no probability of finding an electron. So for px orbital, if you are talking about it, there is radial node also, there is angular nodes also. So if you have to find out radial nodes or angular nodes, so what must be the formula? How can you easily find out these nodes? Let me explain it to you. As you all know, the number of nodes is given as n minus 1, right? Now, angular node is nothing but your azimuthal quantum number, angular momentum. How is it denoted? L, right? So that's the value of your angular node. Okay, it is nothing but it is equal to L. Whichever orbital you are talking about, that L value is nothing but the angular node. That's why we say angles, planes. Okay, and then you have radial node. Now, how is this formula obtained? Radial would be if total number of nodes is n minus 1, and then you have angular nodes, then radial node should be n minus 1 minus L. Okay, so here n minus 1 minus L would be the formula, easier way in order to identify the radial nodes. So this is how you calculate the radial nodes. So in the exams, questions can be asked regarding to find out the angular nodes as well as the radial nodes. So these formulas, angular, you remember, it is directly equal to L value, and then radial nodes is given as n minus 1 minus L. Let me give you an example. If you are talking about 3p orbital, 3p in the sense here, which is the principal quantum number, main shell is 3. So n will be equal to 3, right? Then p is given. So which what is the L value here? P in the sense, first L is equal to 0 is S, 1 is P. So 1 is P over here. So L value should be 1. Correct? Okay. Let us try solving it. Total number of nodes n minus 1. So total number of nodes is given by the formula n minus 1. So 3 minus 1 will be 2. Correct? Then you have radial nodes. Radial nodes formula is given as n minus 1 minus n. So n minus 1 is actually 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 minus L. L is how much? 1. 2 minus 2 will be 2 minus 1 will be 1. 3 minus 3. Radial nodes is 3 minus 1, which is 2. 2 minus 1 will be 1 itself. So number of radial nodes is 1. Okay, so this is the formula which you have to apply and find out the answer. Then you have angular nodes, which is equal to L itself. So L value is also 1 for p subshell. So p orbital, L value is 1. So this is how you calculate the nodes, namely angular nodes, radial nodes, as well as the total number of nodes. And we already spoke about the shapes of d orbitals, p orbitals, as well as the s orbitals. So I think we can wind up the class today, children. So in the next class, let us move on to the energy of these orbitals and also how to write the electronic configurations for different atoms based on these orbital concept. Okay. So see you all in the next class.